Panic attacks can be very, very frightening, and when they occur, you might think you're losing control or having a heart attack or even dying. Your role is to listen first and do not diagnose. You are not a doctor, you're not a clinician. Your job is to listen. Because remember, the intention was that you have to be a good person. This shows that you really, really are a good person and you care. So get trained, or at least equip someone in your team to be trained to handle anxiety. You are a leader or a supervisor, and your staff understand exactly who you are and what your expectation, the things you cannot tolerate, things you can tolerate. It will make your work easier and their work easier. Welcome to a new episode. And today's episode is going to focus on panic attacks, how to handle panic attacks, especially at work. And this, I thought about this because I was attending a training on a manager as a coach. And one of the participants in that training brought an interesting topic, how to handle various reactions, especially when you're doing performance management. And he gave a story of a time when he was trying to have a conversation on performance management. He realized one of his staff had a panic attack and he was confused. So he brought it to a session. We were a big session of around 25 managers, and asked us, or as a class, what should one do, or if you're a manager and one of your staff, for whatever reason, has a panic attack, especially around if you are asking for something, you're following up on something, or even having an evaluation or performance management discussion. So I think there were a lot of beautiful and wonderful tips, things, and ways in which you can handle that. But before I do that, I wanted to give a little bit of my understanding of what panic attacks are. And since you and me are learning, I'm going to read verbatim through my research what I learned was a panic attack. So it is a sudden episode of intense fear that triggers severe physical reactions when there is no really danger or apparent cause. Panic attacks can be very, very frightening, and when they occur, you might think you're losing control or having a heart attack or even dying. So it's an extremely intense reaction. So some of the common symptoms of panic attack include you have an impending sense of doom or danger, you have fear of loss of control or death, there's a rapid pounding heart rate, you're sweating, you're trembling or shaking, shortness of breath or tightness in your throat, chills, hot flashes, nausea, abdominal cramping, chest pain, headaches, dizziness or lightheadedness or faintness, numbness or tingling sensation, and lastly, you have a feeling of unreality or detachment. Now, key aspects of a panic attack is they are sudden and they're without a warning. So you can't make a decision quickly or decide when they do occur. This could happen, maybe you're driving a car, you're in a mall, you're asleep, or you are in the middle of a business meeting. You need to understand that the panics are occasional, and sometimes they also can occur frequently depending on who has it. So one very, very important thing is for you to know, and what we agreed as a class was that the fact that you are, or the fact that one of us brought about this question is a good sign that they are interested in genuinely making or developing or managing their staff. So if you happen to be in a situation where you're in this scenario where there's a panic attack, or you're interested, really, if you're watching this video and you're interested in understanding how to manage someone who has a panic attack, the first thing you need to know before going to the tips is that you have to genuinely care for this person or the people or your team. So if you have decided to watch this video, you are doing the right thing, because you're on your way to being a great manager or a coach because you care, and that is why you're deciding, let me listen to exactly what I can do to manage scenarios where when an opportunity comes up and one of your staff has a panic attack. So having understood what it is, when it can happen, what some of the symptoms. So in the scenario of what was shared in class, what then should you do? I've gone back to the notes and looked through what are some of the things that we agreed we should do, some key takeaways for you as a manager when an employee has a panic attack, especially at work. And there are 7 in total. I'm going to give you each and why they're important and what you should do in each. And I do hope they help you be a better manager, a better leader, a better supervisor. So, tip number 1 on how to manage an employee who's a panic attack at work. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to treat it as an health matter, not a performance metric. I know. Your first reaction will be, hey, every time I approach this staff, something happens. Or is he trying to use this as an excuse not to give further information? That's why I said the first step is to be a caring person. You really, really have to understand this can happen to anyone, even if you've not seen it happen to anyone before. I know for sure that there are people out there or who we work with or family members who have such episodes of panic attacks. And you need to involve HR very, very early because you're going to handle it now as a health issue. And let HR and yourself work together to try to get a primary care physician or a therapist to come and talk to this staff. Remember, as a manager or a supervisor, you're not a doctor, you're not a clinician, you're not a therapist, you're not a physician. Your role is to ensure that this staff, this employee can access help and that work expectations remain clear and fair. Why? It's important to separate those two. It's a health matter. You refer to the right structure. Work with HR, get a professional help for the staff, but your job is to remain clear that you're looking at work expectations so that health matter is handled and work is handled separately. In fact, the first thing on the same point you're going to do is to understand that it's not a staff's decision that such things happen. And you should not react instantly to that moment as if you're trying to help. Hey, is having a panic attack. You allow them go through that process. They'll be okay. Let them see a professional and then quietly come and handle performance as a different issue. So work expectations should remain clear and fair. So tip number 1 or takeaway number 1 is to treat it as a health matter and not a performance metrics. Separate those two. Tip number 2 is respond quietly and supportively at that moment. So if an employer has an episode of that particular nature, do not try to continuously or elevate by saying, okay, we have to, we have to make sure that we discuss this before the end of today or before the end of the week. Instead, at that moment, have a heart to respond quietly and tell them, okay, this probably is on the right moment. Talk about that. Maybe can you tell me a time that you think you'll be ready to come and let's discuss this. Now, if an employee leaves at that moment without a fuss, accept as a legitimate way to regain control. Very, very important. So if he walks out and there's no issue, when that, let him or her guide you when they can meet. Because different people manage symptoms differently. So there are those who are like, okay, no, it's fine, let's continue. Someone will say, okay, well, let's meet in the afternoon, or others, can we meet next week, or others, can we meet tomorrow? Either way, do not compare one's reaction in your team or how you can react in that sense to how they will react. So respond quietly, but at the same time supportively in that moment. Okay, that is tip number 2 on handling a staff who has a panic attack at work. Tip number 3, have a private follow-up conversation. Okay, now remember, probably you are in your first interaction, let me use an example. You're trying to have a discussion or a talk or a presentation, but mostly let's assume it's an evaluation conversation, performance management conversation, and the panic episode start. So this is where tip number 3 will come in. Follow up separate in a different environment away from that conversation or evaluation or performance management, and ask what could have triggered the episode, whether it's performance related factors, work related factors, how you can help make it easy for them. Like now, for example, can we reschedule? Can we, if it's a work related meeting in front of everyone, or it's a departmental issue, you can ask them, can we have a smaller meeting, a one-on-one meeting? Another strategy, a very great strategy, is to send an agenda in advance. Okay, that helps those for someone to prepare and to know what is expected. But also, another scenario could be you can have regular check-ins. Whatever you do to make sure that it might help. Here in number 3, your role is to listen first and do not diagnose. You are not a doctor, you're not a clinician. Your job is to listen. Okay? Now, one thing you can do on this private follow-up conversation is document the discussion. Okay? And if possible, share it with HR. Of course, you have to seek the employer's consent. Or if it's an occupational health issue, a specialist who is an occupational specialist with HR, you can tell them, I'm putting all this on how we can help you, so that this issue again does not recur. And remember, it has to come out from a good heart. You have to care, okay, so that they know you're doing this. So you're doing this because you care for them. And by documenting, it is not to take a little bit of blame or make him feel like now it's out of my hands. Rather, is to help put in context that whatever I'm doing, we're trying to help you become a better person. So the secret here on point number 3 is to have a human heart to help, a human heart to really support your employee out of this situation they are in. Okay. Tip number 4 that I learned and we learned in class is to evaluate the work environment. So evaluate your work environment. What do I mean by this? Examine your meeting style or deadline, or quote unquote the grilling habits. You are going to ensure that in your discussions, whether whatever context it is, it's performance, is it help, is it a coaching session, that the way you handle that conversation could have been the trigger. Okay, maybe there was rapid fire questioning, or there was compressed timelines, your tone, there was a high pressure tone, which sometimes can invoke anxiety to some people. So what should you do? Okay, should you realize that maybe it's the work environment, I am the one causing these panic attacks, is to adjust your pace in your talking. Clarify that this conversation, especially if it's a performance related conversation, that it's a collaborative effort. And that's why sometimes at some point I'll talk about performance management. If in one of the many episodes on this Synergy Unpacked channel, that one of the biggest secrets of performance management is you and your staff to know that you complement each other. They succeed, you succeed, you succeed, they succeed. Because their function is to help you achieve the vision of the function or the unit that you're setting up. That is very, very important. So if the work environment is set up in such a way that the performance reviews are seen as collaborative, then it lowers the anxiety levels. And that is a powerful point in managing panic attacks. So clarify your reviews and ensure that they are collaborative. If it's meetings, especially, or that requires a focus on him or her or a contribution, make them short and sweet. And I think in previous episodes in this channel, I handled an episode, I can't remember the number, on how to manage meetings. I think it's episode number 6. One of the things is to make them short, but also purposeful as possible, because we work in organization that meetings. You have meetings to discuss about a meeting that you're going to have. It is pretty interesting of handling meetings, or sometimes you call, let's go into a meeting, and the issue is to discuss about something that could have been a decision that was made. So a manager calls in a meeting to tell you what he's thinking and tells you, what do you think? Eventually you all go back to what exactly wanted. So some meetings are necessary. And if you want to know how to handle meetings, go to episode number 6 or 5, I can't remember, 7, where I talk about meetings. So ensure, as tip number 4, when you're evaluating to evaluate your environment, that maybe my style, my conversation, and where we were on the context could have been the source of the panic attack. So that is number 4. Number 5. Okay? Number 5 tip or ways in which you can handle an employee with a panic attack is to set consistent expectations. Okay? Here, reassure that employee that all the accommodations are available. This is before you start your conversation. Now you know that there could be instances where they react or they have panic attacks. Reassure them that, hey, understand, if you don't feel like this is the right time to have a conversation, we could wait, or let them set a time. You can give them next week. The whole of next week is performance evaluation week. Let me know a good day when you're ready. These are my expectations. This is what we're going to discuss. You already know what the objectives are, the key performance indicators, your work goals, all those things. Let's now have a discussion. Tell me a day that you'll be ready to discuss that. Okay? Now, that when you're doing that, it allows the employee understand exactly and keep your word. Number 2, when we're talking about setting consistent expectations, one of the worst thing you can ever do as a manager is to be inconsistent. This time you are saying this thing, you guide the staff, they understand, they question that, they tell you, please just clarify this, you tell them yes. A month later, you're moving your goalposts, whether you're adding numbers or adding an extra thing, or changing the targets or changing the indicators. You are causing a lot of anxiety on your staff. So this could also lead to panic attacks. So being consistent in your expectations, let them know what exactly is expected of them. If you are a leader or a supervisor and your staff understand exactly who you are and what your expectation, the things you cannot tolerate, things you can tolerate, it will make your work easier and their work easier. Don't be inconsistent. Always ensure that you encourage them to talk if they feel, for example, that there's something that is not going on well. Be proactive in searching for it, because this could, create anxiety or an environment in which there could be panic attacks. So that is point number 5. Point number 6, yourself get trained or equip someone within your team to be trained. We know of the general health and safety or first aid issues, but also there is a mental health first aid training that can be offered right now. If your organization or your working organization, or even if you in your organization is nothing like that, be proactive and look for where you can be trained as a manager, so that you're able to have the techniques for early interventions. Or if you're not possible, get someone in the team to do that, because training will allow you to recognize warning signs, offer initial support, and guide your people towards care. It's very, very important you do this, because not only does it show that you are a manager that really cares for his people, but because remember, the intention was that you have to be a good person. This shows that you really, really are a good person and you care. So get trained, or at least equip someone in your team to be trained to handle anxiety or panic attacks. Point number 7 and the last tip. Now, escalate if performance truly slips after support is in place. The biggest gift you can give yourself is if an employee refuses your help and performance remains below expectations, follow your firm's or your organization's or your company's normal performance management process. Of course, seek HR guidance, just as you will do for any other ongoing impairment or issue. Now, why is this is important? In every organization, there's a procedure on doing something. Now, let your staff understand that procedure is in place. To remember, you are a good person and you care. Therefore, they know, but by the time you've done all the other 6 things you've spoken above and nothing happens, then there is an opportunity for a second level, that follows the internal procedure. And because one, it shows the team that you really did something to help, but should you not achieve what your initial goal was, that now that is out of your hand. Because even staff are looking, your other staff are looking and seeing how you handle this. If it comes out like you care for one person more than everyone else, then that can bring discomfort or discord or issues in performance with the other teams. Let them know that yes, you care, but of course, if it's out of your control, you've done everything you can, the next step takes effect. So, just to recap, so that you remember them, the 7 tips, that you as a manager or supervisor can do to handle an employee who has a panic attack are: 1, treat this as a health matter, not a performance metric. Respond quietly and supportively in that moment. Have a follow-up conversation. Evaluate. Number 4, evaluate the work environment. Number 5, set consistent expectations. Number 6, get trained or at least equip someone from your team on how to manage panic attacks. Then lastly, escalate if performance truly slips after you've given support and everything that can be done. So, bottom line, okay? Address panic attacks the same way you will like any other workplace health issue. Quick, calmly, and supportively. And of course, give professional services. Now, as a manager, reasonable accommodations are very, very, very important. But remember that you need to look at your team to see if this process, 6 tips that you've done, can have unintentional consequences and contribute to even other teams having issues. So you have to balance to ensure that you as a manager, you reasonably not leading to panic at work, and your process of handling it is an example of someone who cares for yourself and the team, but also that the procedure internally is taken care of. Okay? So I think what I learned from this session was helpful to me. I do hope this is also helpful to you. I want to really wish you the best as you handle the team. Let me hope what you learned from this episode helps you become a good manager, and should you have staff who has a panic attack, that you are able to handle way better. And if there is anything that can help, please write in the comment down here. If there is any resource today that someone can benefit, share it in the comments with a link. Let's other managers find a way to help each other so that we all can be truly great managers. So thank you so much, and goodbye.